You ever notice how your mind loves to show you the worst version of what could happen? Like you're lying in bed, everything's fine, and suddenly your brain decides to play a movie where everything falls apart. Your health fails, your money runs out, the people you love leave. And the strangest part, none of it is happening. None of it is even close to happening, but it feels real. It feels like it's already done. Why does the mind do this after 50? And before you think this is just worry or stress, stay with me, because what's actually happening is way deeper than that. And if you're watching this, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Now here's what most people think. They think this is anxiety, or overthinking, or maybe even the beginning of something worse. And doctors, friends, even therapists will tell you to relax, stop worrying so much, stay positive. But that advice misses the point entirely, because these scenarios your mind creates aren't random. They're not mistakes. They're not signs you're losing it. There's a psychological pattern behind this. And once you understand it, everything changes. Let me give you a real example. A woman in her mid-50s, healthy, financially stable, good relationships, but every night before bed, her mind starts running scenarios. What if she gets sick and can't work? What if her savings aren't enough? What if her kids stop calling? What if she ends up alone? None of these things are happening, but her body reacts like they are. Her heart races, she can't sleep. She feels exhausted, even though nothing bad actually happened. Now pay attention to this. This isn't just worry. This is your brain trying to prepare you for threats. Threats that don't exist yet. But here's the key. Your mind doesn't know the difference between a real threat and an imagined one. After 50, something shifts. You've lived long enough to know that life is unpredictable. You've seen things fall apart. You've watched people lose what they thought was secure. And your brain, trying to protect you, starts running simulations. What if this happens? What if that happens? It's trying to keep you safe, but instead, it's keeping you anxious. This is more common than you think. And there's a detail here that almost nobody notices. The scenarios your mind creates aren't just random fears. They're specifically tied to what you value most. If you care about your health, your mind will show you worst-case health scenarios. If you care about your family, it'll show you scenarios where they're gone. If you care about your independence, it'll show you scenarios where you lose control. Your mind is scanning for the things that matter to you. And then it's testing them. It's asking, what if I lose this? Now here's where it gets interesting. Most people try to push these thoughts away. They try to distract themselves. They try to think positive. But that actually makes it worse, because your brain interprets resistance as confirmation. If you're fighting the thought must be important. If you're scared of the scenario must be real. So your mind keeps playing it over and over, trying to solve a problem that doesn't exist. Let me tell you about a man in his early 60s, retired, financially comfortable. But every morning, he wakes up with this heavy feeling, like something bad is about to happen. He checks his bank account. He checks his health. He calls his kids to make sure they're okay. Everything's fine, but the feeling doesn't go away. His mind keeps creating scenarios. What if the market crashes? What if he gets a diagnosis? What if something happens to his wife? And here's what he didn't realize. His mind wasn't predicting the future. It was processing the past. See, after 50, your brain has decades of data. It's seen loss. It's seen change. It's seen things that were once solid disappear. And now it's trying to prevent that from happening again. But because there's no specific threat, it creates hypothetical ones. It fills in the blanks. Pay attention to this. The scenarios aren't predictions. They're your mind's way of saying, I've seen this before, and I don't want you to be caught off guard. That's actually a form of protection. It's just misdirected. Now let's go deeper. Because behind this behavior, there's a psychological pattern that changes everything. And this is something most people never see. When you hit your 50s, 60s, even 70s, your relationship with time shifts. You stop thinking about how much time you have ahead, and you start noticing how much time has already passed. That shift is massive because it changes how your brain processes risk. When you were younger, the future felt infinite. You had time to recover, time to rebuild, time to start over. But after 50, that feeling fades. You start thinking, if something goes wrong now, do I have time to fix it? And that question creates pressure. It creates urgency. It makes your mind hyper-vigilant, always scanning, always preparing, always running scenarios. Here's what's really happening. Your brain is trying to control the uncontrollable. It's trying to prevent loss by imagining every possible way loss could happen. But the truth is, you can't prevent everything. And your mind knows that, so it keeps trying anyway. That's the loop. Now here's the shift. Once you understand this pattern, you can work with it instead of against it. These scenarios your mind creates, they're not prophecies. They're not warnings. They're old protection software running in the background. Software that once kept you safe, but now it's outdated. Because the threats you face at 50, 60, 70 aren't the same as the threats you faced at 20 or 30. Back then, survival was about action, about hustle, about proving yourself. Now, survival is about presence, about accepting uncertainty, about trusting that you've already built something solid. But your mind hasn't updated yet. It's still running the old program. And that's why it creates unrealistic scenarios. It's preparing you for a version of life that doesn't exist anymore. Let me give you one more example. A woman in her late 50s, her kids are grown, her career is stable, but she keeps imagining scenarios where everything falls apart. Her kids resent her, her partner leaves, her health collapses. None of it is based on reality, but it feels real. And here's what she discovered. These scenarios weren't about the future. They were about control. She couldn't control what happened next, and that scared her. So her mind tried to control it by imagining every outcome. If I can see it coming, I can prepare for it. If I can prepare for it, I can prevent it. But life doesn't work that way. And once she realized that, the scenarios lost their power. She stopped treating them as predictions and started seeing them for what they were. Old fears dressed up as future problems. So here's the reframe. If your mind creates unrealistic scenarios after 50, it's not a flaw. It's not a sign you're broken. It's a sign you've lived long enough to understand that life is fragile. And your brain, in its own clumsy way, is trying to protect you. The problem isn't the scenarios. The problem is believing they're real. Once you stop believing them, they become background noise, and you get to live in the present, where nothing bad is actually happening. And that's the key. The future your mind shows you isn't real. The only thing that's real is right now. And right now, you're okay. So if this resonates with you, hit that like button and subscribe. And tell me in the comments, does your mind do this too? Or have you noticed this in someone close to you? Because recognizing the pattern is the first step to breaking it. But here's something even stronger that most people don't see. There's another layer to this behavior, a deeper pattern that shows up after 50, and it's connected to how your mind processes identity. I'll talk about that in the next video.